as we're preparing to begin a new semester, I've been thinking about the beginning, or what was the beginning for most of us with our educational journey, right? Which is kindergarten. And with kindergarten, my oldest daughter just graduated. They call it graduate from kindergarten. Just graduated from kindergarten and is moving into the first grade. And when your kid goes to school for the first time, goes into kindergarten, you think a lot about what it was like when you were in kindergarten, if you could think back to those experiences and what that was, right? And also, I kind of have this more macro view of like thinking about what we call the American dream. This idea that we should strive to provide a better life, which includes a better education for our children than what our parents were able to provide for us. And so when thinking about this, I grew up in a low-income neighborhood here in Oceanside, and I remember kindergarten. I remember it very well. And we were fortunate enough in my kindergarten class to go on a field trip. However, the field trip was here. And I remember this field trip really well because I was with a fry cook who wasn't older than 20, and he didn't know what to do with these 30 kids. There were very limited parent chaperones, and when he got really stressed out, I remember both of us looking out the window and seeing my teacher smoking a cigarette outside. And I don't blame her. We all got to cope in our own ways, right? So she was smoking her cigarette outside, and he gave us the free ice cream cone that we all got, right? And so that was a good memory, getting that ice cream. And moving forward to what my daughter now experiences, living in the middle class, going to elementary school at a charter school in San Marcos, very different experiences in terms of field trips. This is where she got to go. The Cabrillo Tide Pools, Birch Aquarium. She actually visited the Cabrillo Tide Pools multiple times. Her school employs a pedagogical approach called project-based learning. And this is where students focus in on one subject all year long, and they teach math, science, literature, everything through whatever subject they're studying throughout the year. And this was the ecosystem of the tide pool. So my daughter became an expert on the two-spot octopus. She could tell you more about the two-spot octopus than you would ever care to know. And all of her classmates studied a different creature within the ecosystem of the tide pool. So they went to these places. They put on student-led exhibitions. They had student-led conferences. They had guest speakers come to class. And they even met with an animator and a director and made a stop-motion movie based on their little creature. So it was just amazing, and such a contrast from what I experienced at a young age. So this really inspired me, seeing what they were doing here, to learn more about project-based learning. So this student-centered approach where students learn about a subject through identifying a problem and then offering a solution, a potential solution, and then presenting these things publicly. So this was the whole idea. And I thought, let me try this as a little pilot run in the spring for a group of students in my gender studies class. It would be an optional final project for them. And we decided, I had a good group, you know, just as with all of our classes, it was a very diverse group of students. We had students who identify as cisgender. We had students who identify as transgender, students who identify as gender nonconforming. So we had a good mix of students, and I decided let's go through the tenets of project-based learning. So we're going to walk through those right now and what happened. The first thing is establishing real-world connections in projects. So students have to come up with a question. And their question was, what does our campus community need to know about the gendered experiences of students at Maricosta College? That was their question. And how can we present our findings or our solutions to the larger campus community? How can we take it out of the classroom and engage the campus community with this question? That was first. Second, we have to build rigorous projects that are core to learning. Now, we decided together that they would do a panel presentation. Take a diverse group of students who would play the role of panelists, and also a group of students who would be the moderators. So this would be completely student-driven. And what I had to do was use backward design, so look at my student learning outcomes, and design elements of this project that they could be assessed on along the way. Like, how are they going to do the research for the answers as far as the panelists? How are they going to come up with questions as the moderators, right? And what are the rest of the students going to do in order to help this process along? Next, we had to structure collaboration for student success. So what we did here was, we have our moderators, we have our panelists, they have their tasks, coming up with the questions, answering the questions, rehearsing that. And what the other students who did not choose to do this project, they were the audience, and during rehearsals for this panel presentation, they were able to provide feedback for their peers. And this was really helpful because they're all engaging in this content together, right? So they could tell them, oh, did you think about this theory? Did you think about these studies? Or maybe you should leave that out, that is too anecdotal, right? So all of these different things were considered. And then next, facilitating learning in a student-driven environment. This is where I kind of check in. You have to let students take the wheel and be there as a facilitator and for guidance. Students are creating the questions, answering the questions, conducting research for the questions, and we build in time for reflection and revision. They are also, what was really cool was that they also researched the best practices of creating a panel presentation. So they're getting these skills that are beyond the student learning outcomes of my course. Right? So they're learning how to publicly present. They also learned how to promote an event, create the flyer for it, seek out funding. They learned about all these different facets of putting on a large presentation. And then finally, embedding assessment throughout the project. So this is not just grading the presentation at the end. This is grading every step along the way. The formulation of questions, the rehearsal sessions, the formulation of answers, the research, if they had credible sources that they used in order to come up with their questions and answers. I actually did not even grade the presentation itself at the end. That wasn't part of it. The project was about everything that led up to that moment. And everything that led up to that moment culminated in a very beautiful event. It was called Beyond the Binary, Gendered Experiences of Students at Miracosta College. And we had it near the end of the term last spring. And the students, I just did a brief introduction, and I was able to sit back and just watch their work come to life. And they told their stories as it related to research or as it did not relate to research. The moderators did their job with asking the questions. They had their pace. They did everything worked out very well. And over 150 staff, students, faculty, trustees, and community members showed up for this. What I would consider a very meaningful experience as an undergraduate, to have all these people come here and you get a chance to educate them on the things that you've been learning all semester. So it was great. There's this question when you have these new pedagogical techniques of, does it work? Well, some research has shown that when compared with students receiving traditional instruction, those participating in project-based learning become more engaged, self-directed learners. We could see that throughout the process, right? Those kind of things are going to happen. Learn more deeply and transfer their learning to new situations, right? So they're not just learning about the content in the class, they're learning all these other skills that could help them in potential jobs and other courses. Improve problem solving and collaboration skills. I think that those are obvious in the process there. And what was surprising in the research was that they perform as well or better on high stakes tests. Now, going back to this idea of the American dream and providing a better life for the next generation than what was provided for us, I think that we as educators believe in the educational dream, right? That we provide better instruction and education for our students than what was provided for us. And I think project-based learning is one of the many ways that we can help realize that dream. Because I think as instructors, we deserve better. I think as students, they deserve better. And I think we can all agree that we all deserve better than a field trip to McDonald's. Thank you.